My daughter-in-law was standing in my dining room with a real estate agent when she told me they'd already listed my farmhouse bed and breakfast for sale. The 60-acre property with the 1890s Victorian home I'd restored over 20 years. The business generating $12,000 monthly from weekend guests. Because my son had decided I was too old to manage it anymore, and they needed the equity to fund their vineyard investment. Francine, we've already had 2 offers. The listing went up yesterday. We're accepting bids through next week. You should start packing. The buyers will want possession in 30 days. I looked at my daughter-in-law, at Naomi, 43 years old, married to my son Wesley for 8 years, always wanting more, always seeing my business as wasted potential. You listed my property without asking me. Francine, let's be realistic. You're 76. Running a bed and breakfast is too much for you. The stairs alone are a liability. What if you fall? What if a guest gets hurt and sues? We're protecting you from yourself. And honestly, the property is worth $850,000. That's equity you're sitting on when we could be building something with it. Building what? A vineyard, 20 acres in wine country. Wesley's dream. We've been planning this for 2 years. Francine, the bed and breakfast was nice when you were younger, but now it's just an old woman trying to run a business she can't handle anymore. It's time to let it go. I looked at the real estate agent, at the glossy brochure showing my farmhouse, my business, my life's work, listed for sale without my permission. I never authorized this listing. The agent looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Ashford, I was told you'd agreed. Your son has power of attorney. He signed all the paperwork. I never gave my son power of attorney. Naomi spoke up quickly. Francine, Wesley has been managing your affairs for 6 months. You signed the documents. You just don't remember. That's part of why we're selling. The memory issues. The confusion. You can't run a business when you're forgetting things. I looked at my daughter-in-law. At this woman claiming I had memory issues. Claiming I'd signed power of attorney documents I'd never seen. Claiming I'd agreed to sell my business. And I understood something important. This wasn't about protecting me. This was about taking my property. About convincing me I was declining so they could access equity I'd built. About framing theft as help. I don't have memory issues. I didn't sign power of attorney, and you're not selling my property. Francine, you're being difficult again. This is exactly what we're talking about. You get confused and defensive. But Francine, this is happening whether you accept it or not. The listing is up. We have offers. In 30 days, this property will be sold. I didn't yell, didn't argue about my competence, didn't try to prove I remembered everything clearly. I just looked at Naomi and the real estate agent. At these people who thought they could take my business by claiming I was too old and confused to stop them. And I knew exactly what to do. Get out of my house, both of you, now. Francine, we're trying to help. Get out, or I'm calling the police and reporting trespassing. After they left, I sat in my dining room, the room where I'd served breakfast to hundreds of guests over 20 years, and I thought about what had just happened. My son and his wife had listed my property for sale, had told a real estate agent I'd agreed, had claimed I had memory issues, and had signed power of attorney I'd never authorized. They thought I was finished, too old, too confused, too weak to fight back. That was their first mistake. They thought I was broken, that listing my property meant they'd won, that I'd just accept it because fighting seemed too hard. That was their first mistake. Now listen, before I tell you what happened when my son decided I was too old to run my business and tried to sell it without permission, before I show you what a 76-year-old woman who built a bed and breakfast from nothing can do when people think she's finished, I need you to do something. If you're watching this and someone has ever told you you're too old or too confused to manage what you built, hit subscribe right now. Comment where you're from. Because what happened when they thought I was finished, but I was just getting ready, you need to hear every second. Turn on notifications. This goes places Wesley and Naomi never imagined. After they left, I made 6 calls. First, to my attorney, Leonard Park. Leonard, My son just listed my bed and breakfast for sale without my permission. Claims he has power of attorney I never signed. I need to stop this immediately. Francine, do you have any power of attorney documents with Wesley? No, I've never given him or anyone power of attorney. Leonard, they're claiming I signed documents I don't remember. They're saying I have memory issues. That's elder abuse, financial exploitation. Francine, we need to act fast. If the property is already listed, we need to file emergency injunctions. Contact the real estate board. Prove you're competent and never authorize this. Do it, whatever it takes. Leonard, they think I'm finished. They're wrong. Second, to my physician, Dr. Yolanda Armstrong. Yolanda, I need comprehensive cognitive testing. Today, if possible. My son is claiming I have memory issues to justify selling my property without permission. Francine, you were here 2 months ago for your annual physical. You were sharp as ever. But yes, come in this afternoon. We'll do full cognitive testing and I'll write a detailed report. Third, to the county recorder's office. I need to know if any power of attorney documents have been filed for my property. I believe someone may have filed fraudulent paperwork. The clerk checked. Mrs. Ashford, we have a power of attorney filed 3 weeks ago. Gives Wesley Ashford full authority over your property. Notarized signature. I never signed that document. That's forgery. I need to file a fraud report immediately. Fourth, to the real estate board. A property has been listed for sale without owner authorization. The listing agent was told the owner agreed, but that's false. I'm the owner. I never authorized this listing. I need it removed immediately. Ma'am, if there's a power of attorney on file. The power of attorney is forged. I'm filing criminal complaints. That listing needs to come down today. Fifth, to my accountant, Phyllis Chen. Phyllis, I need complete documentation of my business finances. My son is claiming I can't manage the bed and breakfast. I need proof showing excellent financial management. Francine, your books are perfect. You're profitable every year. No debts. Growing revenue. I can have a full report to you by tomorrow showing you're running a successful business. Sixth, to my goddaughter, Carmen. Carmen, something's happening. Wesley and Naomi are trying to take my property. I need you aware in case they try anything else. Aunt Francine, what do you need? Just be ready. If they try to claim I'm incompetent or confused, I need someone who will tell the truth. Carmen, I'm sharp, I'm competent, and I'm being targeted. I'm here, whatever you need. That afternoon, I went to Dr. Armstrong's office. 3 hours of cognitive testing, memory evaluation, mental status examination, problem-solving assessments. After everything, Dr. Armstrong's report was unambiguous. Patient Francine Ashford, age 76, demonstrates excellent cognitive function, memory intact across all domains, reasoning sharp, judgment sound, mental status completely normal, no evidence of decline. Patient is fully capable of managing personal affairs and operating her business. I had the report notarized immediately, made 10 copies, sent them to Leonard, the county, the real estate board, and kept several for myself. By evening, Leonard had filed emergency motions, injunction against the property's sale, fraud report with the county, complaint to the real estate board, criminal complaint for forgery and attempted theft. The real estate listing came down that night, emergency court hearings scheduled for 3 days later. And I sat in my farmhouse, my business, my home, my life's work, and I prepared for war. They'd thought I was finished, that I'd just accept being pushed aside, that claiming I had memory issues would make everyone believe them. They didn't understand I'd been building this business for 20 years. I knew exactly how to fight for it. 2 days before the hearing, Wesley showed up at my door, alone, looking worried. Mom, we need to talk. This whole situation has gotten out of hand. The lawyers, the complaints, the accusations. Mom, I'm not trying to steal from you. I'm trying to help you. By listing my property without permission. By protecting you before something terrible happens. Mom, you're 76. The bed and breakfast is too much work. The stairs, the guests, the constant maintenance. What if you get hurt? What if something goes wrong? I've been running this business successfully for 20 years. What's changed? You've gotten older. Mom, I know you don't want to hear it, but you're slowing down, making mistakes, forgetting things. Name one mistake, one thing I've forgotten. He couldn't. It's not about specific incidents. It's about your age, about being realistic. Mom, wouldn't you rather sell now while you can still enjoy the money, move somewhere easier? Let Naomi and me build something with the equity. Build your vineyard with my money. Build a family legacy, something we can all be part of. Mom, the bed and breakfast was great, but it's time to move on, to let the next generation take over. The next generation didn't build this. I did, with your father before he died, with 20 years of work. Wesley, you want to take what I built and use it for your dream. That's not legacy, that's theft. It's not theft if it's going to stay in the family. It is theft when you forge documents, when you list property without permission, when you claim I'm incompetent to justify taking what's mine. Wesley, I have cognitive testing proving I'm sharp. I have financial records proving I manage the business excellently. And I have evidence you forged power of attorney documents. You're not protecting me. You're committing elder abuse. His face changed, from worried to cold. Mom, you're making a mistake. Fighting this will make everything public, embarrassing. Everyone will know you're being difficult, that you can't let go, that you're so controlling you'd rather destroy family relationships than help your own son. I'd rather protect what I built than enable you stealing it. Wesley, we're done. I'll see you in court. After Wesley left, I sat thinking about my son, about when he'd changed, about how Naomi had influenced him, about how he'd gone from the boy who helped me restore this farmhouse to a man willing to forge documents to take it. I didn't cry, I prepared. That evening, I walked every inch of the property, the 60 acres of rolling hills, the Victorian farmhouse with 5 guest bedrooms, the barn I'd converted to an event space, the gardens I maintained, the hiking trails guests loved. Every part of this property represented work, investment, vision, 20 years of building something from an abandoned farmhouse into a successful business. And Wesley thought he could take it with forged documents and claims of my incompetence. He was wrong. The emergency hearing was in a small courtroom. Wesley and Naomi sat with their attorney. I sat with Leonard. The judge reviewed the filings. This is an unusual case. Mr. Ashford claims to have power of attorney authorizing sale of his mother's property. Mrs. Ashford claims the power of attorney is forged and she never authorized any sale. Let's start with the documents. Wesley's attorney presented the power of attorney. Your Honor, this document was signed 3 weeks ago, properly notarized. Gives Mr. Ashford full authority over his mother's affairs. Leonard presented our evidence. Your Honor, Mrs. Ashford has no memory of signing this document. The notary who supposedly witnessed the signing cannot confirm Mrs. Ashford was present, and we have a handwriting expert's preliminary analysis suggesting the signature is forged. The judge examined both documents. Mrs. Ashford, can you explain your signature on this power of attorney? I can't explain it, Your Honor, because I never signed it. I've never given my son power of attorney. That signature is forged. Mr. Ashford, where was this document signed? Wesley looked at his attorney, then answered. At Mom's house. She signed it in her kitchen. Who was present? Just me and Mom, and the notary. And the notary's name. Linda Morrison. Leonard spoke up. Your Honor, we contacted Linda Morrison. She has no record of notarizing any document for Francine Ashford. She said she's never met Mrs. Ashford. The judge's expression hardened. Mr. Ashford, are you telling me this document was notarized by someone who says she never witnessed the signing? Wesley's attorney whispered to him urgently. Wesley looked panicked. Your Honor, there may have been some confusion about the notary. Confusion. Mr. Ashford, this is either a legitimate power of attorney or it's forgery. Which is it? Silence. Wesley couldn't answer without admitting to a crime. The judge made his ruling. I'm granting the emergency injunction. The property cannot be sold. The power of attorney is voided pending investigation. And I'm referring this case to the district attorney for potential criminal prosecution. Mr. Ashford, if you forged your mother's signature to gain control of her property, you've committed serious crimes. Court is adjourned. After the hearing, Wesley tried to approach me. Leonard stepped between us. Mrs. Ashford doesn't want to speak with you. Mom, please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You forged documents, tried to steal my property, claimed I was incompetent. Wesley, you're my son and I love you, but you just tried to destroy everything I built. There's nothing left to say. I walked away, and I didn't look back. 1 week after the hearing, the district attorney's office called. Mrs. Ashford, we've reviewed the evidence. We're filing criminal charges against Wesley Ashford for forgery, attempted theft, and elder financial exploitation. Are you willing to testify? Yes, absolutely. Mrs. Ashford, you should know, these are serious charges. If convicted, your son could face prison time. Are you prepared for that? I'm prepared for my son to face consequences for his crimes. He didn't just try to steal from me. He tried to do it by claiming I was incompetent, by destroying my reputation, by taking what I spent 20 years building. Yes, I'll testify. 2 weeks after the hearing, something happened that showed me the situation was worse than I'd known. Carmen called. Aunt Francine, I need to tell you something about Wesley and Naomi, about what they've been saying about you. What have they been saying? They've been telling family members you're declining, that you're confused and can't manage the business anymore, that you're being stubborn and putting guests at risk. Aunt Francine, they've been building a narrative for months, setting up the sale. Who have they told? Your sister Alina, your niece Rebecca, several cousins. They've been systematically telling everyone you're incompetent, so when the sale happened, family would support it instead of questioning it. I felt sick. They've been destroying my reputation for months. Yes, and Aunt Francine, there's more. Naomi told Alina that you've been having episodes, that you forgot guests were coming, that you left the stove on, that you got lost driving to town. All lies, but Alina believed her. She called me asking if we should intervene to help you. What did you tell her? I told her I'd just seen you, that you were sharp as ever, that running the bed and breakfast perfectly. But Aunt Francine, the damage is done. Half the family thinks you're declining because Wesley and Naomi have been lying for months. After the call, I realized the scope of what they'd done. This wasn't spontaneous. This was planned, systematic. They'd spent months building a case that I was incompetent, telling family members lies, creating witnesses who'd support the sale. Then they'd forged documents and listed the property, expecting family support, expecting I wouldn't be able to fight back because everyone already believed I was declining. It was sophisticated, calculated, and it had almost worked. That evening, I made a decision. I called Leonard. I want to file a civil suit against Wesley and Naomi for defamation, for the damage they've done to my reputation. Francine, that will make the family conflict worse. It's already worse. Leonard, they've spent months telling people I'm incompetent. I want that documented. I want them to face consequences for every lie they told, every piece of damage they caused. I'll draft the complaint. 3 weeks after the hearing, the family damage became clear. My sister Alina came to visit, looking worried, treating me like I was fragile. Francine, I'm here to help. I know things have been difficult. Wesley told me about your memory issues, about the confusion. Sweetie, there's no shame in needing help. I looked at my sister, at Alina who'd believed Wesley's lies without asking me directly. Alina, I don't have memory issues. I'm not confused. Wesley lied to you. He's been lying to everyone for months to justify stealing my property. Francine, Wesley wouldn't lie about something like that. He forged a power of attorney. He listed my property without permission. He's being prosecuted for elder abuse. Alina, he absolutely would lie. And he did. To you, to everyone. But he said you were having episodes. Name one. Give me one specific example of an episode I supposedly had. She couldn't. Wesley said you forgot guests were coming. I've never missed a reservation in 20 years. Alina, do you want to see my guest books? My reviews? My financial records? Everything showing I run this business perfectly. I showed her everything. The books, the reviews praising my attention to detail, the financial records showing consistent profitability, the cognitive testing from Dr. Armstrong. After an hour, Alina was crying. I believed him. Francine, I'm so sorry. I should have asked you directly, should have questioned his stories. Yes, you should have. Alina, Wesley tried to steal from me by convincing family I was incompetent. You believed him without verification. That hurt. I know. Francine, what can I do to make this right? Tell the truth to everyone Wesley lied to. Tell them I'm competent, that Wesley lied, that I'm fighting back not because I'm confused, but because I'm protecting myself from theft. Alina spent the next week calling family members, correcting the lies. Some believed her, some didn't. Some had invested so much in believing Wesley's narrative that they couldn't accept they'd been manipulated. But enough believed Alina that the family dynamics shifted. People started questioning Wesley's motives, started understanding I was the victim, not the problem. 6 weeks after the emergency hearing, the criminal trial date was set. Wesley was facing 3 felony counts: forgery, attempted theft, elder financial exploitation. His attorney reached out to Leonard. We'd like to discuss a plea deal. Mr. Ashford is willing to plead guilty to reduced charges in exchange for probation and restitution. Leonard presented the offer to me. Francine, Wesley would plead guilty to attempted fraud, accept 3 years probation, pay $50,000 in restitution for legal fees and damage, agree to never contest your estate or have contact regarding business matters. No prison time. What about Naomi? She was part of this. The DA doesn't have enough evidence to charge Naomi directly, but the restitution would come from both of them jointly. I thought about the offer for 2 days, about whether Wesley should go to prison, about whether probation was enough. Finally, I called Leonard back. I'll accept the plea deal on one condition. Wesley has to write a statement, admitting what he did, acknowledging he lied about my competence, admitting he forged documents, apologizing not for getting caught but for trying to steal from me. I want it on record, signed, part of the court file. I'll present that condition. Wesley agreed. 2 days later, I received his statement, 3 pages, handwritten. I, Wesley Ashford, acknowledge that I forged a power of attorney document using my mother's signature. I used this forged document to attempt to sell her property without authorization. I told family members my mother was incompetent and declining when she was not. I created false narratives about her memory and capabilities to justify taking her property. I did this because I wanted to fund my vineyard investment. I saw my mother's property as an asset I could access. I convinced myself she was too old to run her business. I told myself I was helping her when I was really stealing from her. My mother is completely competent. She runs her bed and breakfast successfully. She has excellent memory and judgment. Everything I said about her declining was a lie designed to make people support taking her property. I am accepting this plea deal because I am guilty, not because of legal strategy, because I committed crimes against my mother. I forged documents. I lied to family. I tried to steal her life's work. I am sorry, not for getting caught, for doing it, for seeing my mother as an obstacle instead of a person, for trying to destroy her reputation to access her assets. Mom, you were right to fight back, right to prosecute me, right to protect what you built. I destroyed our relationship through my choices. You just refused to enable those choices. I read Wesley's statement 3 times. My son finally admitting the truth, finally acknowledging what he'd done, finally taking responsibility. It didn't repair our relationship, but it documented the truth, and that mattered. The plea deal was finalized 1 week later. Wesley pleaded guilty to attempted fraud, 3 years probation, $50,000 restitution, permanent provisions prohibiting him from any involvement in my business or estate matters. At the plea hearing, the judge addressed Wesley directly. "Mr. Ashford, you targeted your own mother. You forged documents. You lied to family members. You tried to steal her business by claiming she was incompetent. This is one of the most callous cases of elder abuse I've seen. You're receiving probation only because your mother agreed to it. If she hadn't, you'd be going to prison. Don't make me regret this leniency." After the hearing, Wesley tried to approach me one last time. "Mom, can we talk? About rebuilding, about fixing what I broke?" I looked at my son, at the man who'd tried to steal my life's work, who'd forged documents, who'd lied about my competence for months. "Wesley, you didn't just try to steal my property, you tried to steal my reputation, my dignity, my credibility. You told everyone I was failing, declining, incompetent for months. You built a case that I was finished, that I couldn't manage what I'd built, that you needed to save me from myself. I know, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't restore what you destroyed. Wesley, for 3 months, half my family believed I was declining, believed I was incompetent, because you systematically lied to them. That damage doesn't go away with an apology. What do I have to do to fix this, to earn forgiveness? I don't know if you can. Wesley, you're my son and I'll always love you. But trust, relationship, those are gone. You tried to take everything from me. I can't unsee that. I can't unhear the lies you told. I can't forget that you thought I was finished when I was just getting ready to destroy your scheme." I walked away, and I knew that was probably the last real conversation I'd ever have with my son. 3 months after the plea deal, I was at the farmhouse when a car pulled up. A woman in her 50s got out, looked at the property with tears in her eyes. "Can I help you?" I asked. "Are you Francine Ashford, the owner?" "Yes." "My name is Patricia Howard. I'm a social worker specializing in elder abuse. I heard about your case, about how you fought back. Mrs. Ashford, I work with elderly people every day who are being exploited by family. Most of them don't fight back. They believe the lies their families tell them. They think they're declining. They give up. You didn't, you fought, and you won. I protected myself, that's all. You did more than that. You proved elderly people can fight back successfully. That age doesn't mean weakness. That experience and intelligence can defeat manipulation. Mrs. Ashford, would you be willing to speak to some of my clients, to show them what's possible?" "Speak about what?" "About how you recognized the manipulation, how you gathered evidence, how you fought back systematically. Mrs. Ashford, you have knowledge that could save other people from losing everything. Will you share it?" I thought about that request, about whether my story could help others. "Yes, I'll speak to them." Over the following months, I spoke to dozens of elderly people facing family exploitation, teaching them to recognize the warning signs, to document everything, to fight back strategically. They told me I was too old to manage my business, that I was declining, that I needed help, but I wasn't declining, I was being targeted. They thought claiming I was incompetent would make me believe it, would make everyone believe it. They were wrong. I taught them what I'd learned. When someone tells you you're too old or too confused, get medical documentation proving otherwise. When someone pressures you to sign documents quickly, slow down and verify everything. When someone claims to be protecting you by taking your assets, protect yourself by documenting their actions. The talks grew, 20 people, 50, 100. I became an accidental advocate for elderly people resisting family exploitation. And through it all, the bed and breakfast kept running. Guests kept coming. Revenue kept growing. I was 77 now. Still managing the business they'd said I was too old to run. Still climbing the stairs they'd said were too dangerous. Still operating the property they'd said I couldn't handle. Every guest who checked in, every 5-star review, every month of profit, all of it proved Wesley and Naomi had been wrong. I wasn't finished. I was just getting ready. Ready to fight. Ready to protect what I'd built. Ready to show them that age doesn't equal weakness and experience is power they'd underestimated. They thought I was finished. They learned I was just getting ready. And that difference, between thinking someone is done and discovering they're just preparing their countermove, that cost them everything while I kept what mattered. But as I stood on my porch that evening, looking at the property I'd saved, I knew something else was coming. Wesley had taken the plea deal, but Naomi hadn't been charged, and people who think they can steal from elderly people don't usually stop after one failure. I'd won this battle, but I had a feeling the war wasn't over. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 4 months after Wesley's plea deal, I was checking in a couple for the weekend when I noticed something odd. The man kept looking around the property with too much interest, taking photos, asking detailed questions about the property lines, the water rights, the zoning. Most guests asked about hiking trails or breakfast times. This man was asking questions a surveyor would ask. After they checked out, I mentioned it to Carmen. Something felt off about that couple. The husband was documenting everything like he was doing research. Did you get a bad feeling? Just odd, probably nothing. 2 weeks later, another couple. Same pattern, too many questions about the property, photos of the boundaries, interest in the business operations. After the third couple in a month showed the same behavior, I called Leonard. I think someone is sending people to gather information about my property. 3 different couples, all asking unusual questions, all taking detailed photos. What kind of questions? Property boundaries, water rights, zoning regulations, septic capacity, things regular guests wouldn't care about. Leonard, I think someone is researching the property for a reason. Let me look into it. 3 days later, Leonard called back. Francine, I found something. All 3 couples paid in cash, used different names, but I tracked the reservations. They all originated from the same IP address, an address registered to Naomi's business. Naomi sent them. It appears so. Francine, she's researching your property. Systematically. I don't know why yet, but she's gathering detailed information. That evening, I thought about what Naomi might be planning. Wesley couldn't be involved. The plea deal prohibited any contact regarding my business. But Naomi hadn't been charged. She was free to do whatever she wanted. And apparently, what she wanted was information about my property. 2 weeks after Leonard's discovery, I received a certified letter from something called Northern Valley Land Trust. Dear Mrs. Ashford, we represent a coalition of environmental organizations working to preserve agricultural land in your region. We've identified your 60-acre property as meeting criteria for conservation easement designation. We'd like to discuss purchasing a conservation easement on your property. This would restrict future development while allowing you to continue operating your bed and breakfast. The easement would be valued at approximately $320,000. We believe this arrangement would benefit both your financial interests and our conservation goals. Please contact us to discuss this opportunity. I read the letter 3 times. A conservation easement would restrict what could be done with the property, would lower its market value, would make it harder to sell or develop. And it would pay me $320,000 for those restrictions. It sounded legitimate, but after Wesley's attempted theft and Naomi's surveillance, I trusted nothing. I called Leonard immediately. I received a letter about a conservation easement. Is this legitimate or is this Naomi trying something? Let me research Northern Valley Land Trust. Don't sign anything or respond until I've investigated. Leonard called back the next day. Francine, Northern Valley Land Trust is real. It's a legitimate conservation organization. But I found something interesting. Naomi made a $50,000 donation to them 6 weeks ago, and she's listed as a conservation advisor on their board. So Naomi is involved with the organization offering to buy an easement on my property. Yes, and Francine, here's what I think is happening. If you sign a conservation easement, it restricts development. That lowers the property's market value significantly. If you later decided to sell, the property would be worth maybe $500,000 instead of $850,000. That's $350,000 less. Why would Naomi want my property to be worth less? Because you're 77. Eventually, you'll pass away. If Wesley is still your heir at that point, he'd inherit the property. But with the easement, it's worth less. Unless, Francine, what does your current will say about the property? Everything goes to Wesley. I haven't changed it since the criminal case. Then here's Naomi's plan. Get you to sign the easement now, which lowers the market value. When you die, Wesley inherits property worth $500,000 instead of $850,000. But the easement comes with that $320,000 payment you'd receive now. Where does that money go? I saw it immediately. Into my estate, which Wesley would inherit. So they get the $320,000 now plus the restricted property later. They don't lose money, they just restructure how they get it. Exactly. And if you spend the $320,000 before you die, they still get the property. This is sophisticated, Francine. It's not outright theft like before. It's manipulation through legitimate channels. What do I do? First, change your will. Make sure Wesley doesn't inherit anything. Second, don't sign the easement. And third, we document this. Show the pattern of Naomi trying to access your property through various schemes. That afternoon, I went to Leonard's office. We drafted a new will, everything to Carmen and a charitable trust. Wesley got nothing. Leonard, I need you to be clear with me. Am I being too harsh? Wesley is my only child. He made mistakes, but he's still my son. Should I be leaving him something? Francine, he tried to steal your entire property. He forged documents. He lied about your competence for months. He's on probation for crimes against you. And now his wife is trying to manipulate your property value through conservation easements. How much should you reward that behavior? Nothing. You're right, Wesley gets nothing. I signed the new will that day, filed it properly, made sure it was documented and dated. Then I did something else. I called Northern Valley Land Trust directly. Hello, I received your letter about a conservation easement. I'd like to discuss it. But first, can you tell me about your board member Naomi Ashford? How long has she been advising your organization? The person on the phone hesitated. Mrs. Ashford, I'm not sure that's relevant to the easement discussion. It's relevant when she's my daughter-in-law, and she's been trying to access my property for months. Did Naomi suggest you contact me about an easement? Longer silence. Then, Mrs. Ashford, I think you should speak with our director. Can I have him call you back? The director called an hour later. Mrs. Ashford, I want to be transparent. Naomi Ashford did suggest we contact you about a conservation easement. She told us you were interested in conservation and might be receptive to our proposal. She didn't mention she was your daughter-in-law or that there was any family conflict. There's conflict. Her husband tried to steal my property 6 months ago. He's on probation for elder abuse. And now she's using your organization to manipulate my property value. Did she tell you any of that? No, she did not. Mrs. Ashford, if we'd known about family conflict, we never would have contacted you. We don't get involved in family property disputes. Then you should know, I'm not signing any easement, and you should be careful about taking advice from Naomi. She's not interested in conservation. She's interested in accessing my property by any means necessary. After I hung up, I felt something shift. Naomi had tried to use a legitimate organization to manipulate me, had hidden the family conflict, had framed it as conservation when it was really about controlling my property value. It was clever, more sophisticated than Wesley's forgery, but still manipulation, still an attempt to access what wasn't hers. 2 weeks after declining the easement, I received a visit from someone unexpected. Wesley's first wife, Diana, the woman he'd been married to before Naomi. Francine, I heard about what Wesley and Naomi tried to do. I needed to come talk to you. Diana, you and Wesley divorced years ago. Why are you here? Because I need you to understand something about Naomi, something I learned too late. Francine, Naomi is a predator. She targets people with assets. That's what she does. What do you mean? Before Wesley, Naomi was married to an older man, a widower with money. She convinced him to sign over power of attorney. Then she moved his assets around. By the time his adult children realized what was happening, she'd taken over $200,000. They sued her, but she'd protected herself legally. Everything she did was technically authorized. I felt cold. Naomi has done this before. Yes, the widower's children tried to warn Wesley, tried to tell him what Naomi was. He didn't listen, thought they were just bitter about their father remarrying. Francine, Naomi saw you as her next target. She spent months convincing Wesley you were declining, building a case, planning the theft. Why didn't you warn me? I didn't know until after Wesley's arrest. I started researching Naomi's past, talking to the widower's children, piecing together her history. Francine, you're the second elderly person she's targeted. The first one died before the children could recover everything. You survived. You fought back. That's why she's trying different approaches now. Like the conservation easement. That's new, but it fits her pattern. Sophisticated manipulation through legitimate channels, making you think you're making good financial decisions when really she's positioning to access your assets eventually. After Diana left, I called Leonard. Naomi has a history. She defrauded an elderly widower before she married Wesley, took over $200,000. His children sued but couldn't recover everything. We need to document this, build a file showing Naomi's pattern. Francine, if she tries anything else, we want to show this isn't random. This is systematic predation. Over the following weeks, Leonard contacted the widower's adult children, got their legal files, documented Naomi's previous fraud. The pattern was clear. Naomi targeted elderly people with assets, got close to them through marriage or relationships, convinced them to give her financial access, then moved assets in ways that appeared legitimate but benefited her. She was a professional, sophisticated, and she'd almost succeeded with me. 3 months after the conservation easement attempt, I received another letter, this time from something called Senior Hospitality Management. Dear Mrs. Ashford, we specialize in managing bed and breakfast properties for elderly owners. We handle daily operations, guest relations, and property maintenance while you retain ownership and receive monthly income. Our management services cost 30% of gross revenue. In exchange, we handle everything. You'd have no responsibilities but would continue receiving 70% of your current income with none of the work. Many of our clients find this arrangement allows them to enjoy their retirement while maintaining their business legacy. We'd love to discuss how we could serve your property. I showed the letter to Leonard. Is this Naomi again? Let me check. He researched for 2 days, then called back. Francine Senior Hospitality Management is a real company, but guess who owns 40% of it? Naomi. She's a silent partner. So she wants me to hire her company to manage my property. Yes, you'd pay 30% of gross revenue, that's about $3,600 monthly, to a company she partially owns, for work you're currently doing yourself. And Francine, here's the clever part. Once they're managing your property, they have access to everything. Guest lists, financial records, property systems. They'd learn how to run your business. If you later became unable to manage things, they'd be positioned to argue they should take over completely. It's another way to access my property. Yes, more sophisticated than forging documents, but still predatory. She's trying to get legitimate business access to what she couldn't steal criminally. I declined the management company immediately, and I started documenting every approach Naomi made, the surveillance guests, the conservation easement, the management company, a pattern of attempts to access my property through different channels. 6 months after Wesley's plea deal, Naomi showed up at my door. First time I'd seen her since the emergency hearing. Francine, we need to talk about all the misunderstandings, about moving forward. There are no misunderstandings. You and Wesley tried to steal my property. He's on probation for it. Wesley made mistakes, but Francine, I wasn't charged with anything, because I didn't do anything wrong. I was supporting my husband. You sent surveillance guests to research my property. You tried to get me to sign a conservation easement through an organization you're involved with. You wanted me to hire a management company you partially own. Naomi, you're still trying to access my property. You've just gotten more sophisticated about it." Her face changed, from conciliatory to cold. "Francine, you're 77 years old. How much longer can you really run this business? The stairs alone are a liability. One fall and you're done. Why not accept help while it's still offered gracefully?" Is that a threat? It's reality. You can keep fighting, keep isolating yourself, keep refusing help. But Francine, time is on my side. You're getting older, I'm getting more patient. Eventually, something will change, and when it does, I'll be ready. Get off my property. This isn't over, Francine. You won this round, but there will be others. And eventually, one of them won't go your way. After Naomi left, I sat thinking about her words. Time is on my side. Eventually, something will change. She was right about one thing. I was 77. The reality of aging meant eventually I might not be able to run the business, might need help, might become vulnerable. And Naomi was waiting for that moment. I couldn't let that happen. I needed to protect the property not just now, but permanently, in case anything happened to me. I called Carmen. I need to make changes, permanent protections, so that even if something happens to me, Naomi can never access this property. What kind of changes? I'm thinking about putting the property in a trust, with you as trustee. If something happens to me, you'd manage it, keep it running or sell it, but Wesley and Naomi would never have access. Aunt Francine, that's a big responsibility. I trust you. Carmen, you're the only person I know who wouldn't try to steal from me, who'd honor what I built, who'd protect this property the way it deserves. Over the following month, Leonard helped me create a comprehensive trust. The property transferred to the Francine Ashford Legacy Trust. Carmen as trustee. Instructions for how the property should be managed if I became incapacitated. Clear provisions excluding Wesley and Naomi from any involvement. The trust was irrevocable, permanent. Even if I later changed my mind, the property would stay protected. It was the last line of defense, the final protection against Naomi's schemes. 1 year after Wesley's plea deal, something happened that I didn't expect. Wesley showed up at my door, looking different. Thinner, older, humbled. "Mom, I know you don't want to see me. I know I destroyed our relationship. But I needed to tell you something. I'm divorcing Naomi." "Why?" "Because I finally saw what you saw, what Diana tried to warn me about. Mom, Naomi married me to access your property. That was always the goal. The vineyard was just the excuse. The investment was just the cover. She researched you before she even met me. She targeted our family deliberately." "I know," Diana told me. "Then you know more than I did. Mom, I spent a year thinking Naomi loved me, thinking we were partners building a future. I didn't understand I was a tool she was using to access your assets. When the criminal case failed, when you protected the property, Naomi started looking for other options. Other wealthy, elderly people to target. That's when I understood. I wasn't her husband. I was her access point to you. And when that failed, I became useless to her." "I'm sorry, Wesley. I know that must hurt." "It does, but Mom, I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here to warn you. Naomi isn't done with you. She's obsessed with your property. She sees it as the one that got away, the mark who outsmarted her. Mom, she's dangerous, more dangerous than I understood." "What do you think she'll do?" "I don't know, but Mom, be careful. Naomi doesn't lose gracefully. She's methodical, patient. She'll wait as long as it takes for an opportunity, and when she sees one, she'll take it." After Wesley left, I thought about his warning, about Naomi being obsessed, about her waiting for an opportunity. I couldn't let my guard down. Couldn't assume I'd won just because the criminal case was over. Naomi was still out there, still planning, still watching. And time, as she'd said, was on her side. I was 78 now, still managing the business successfully. But how many more years did I have? 5, 10. Eventually, age would create vulnerability. And Naomi would be waiting for that moment. 18 months after Wesley's plea deal, I received a call from Patricia Howard, the social worker I'd been speaking for. Francine, I need to tell you something. One of my clients was approached by someone offering to help her. The woman said she specialized in estate planning for elderly business owners, offered to help my client simplify her affairs. Red flags everywhere. What's the woman's name? She's using the name Nicole Andrews. But Francine, I looked into her. Nicole Andrews is Naomi Ashford. She changed her name. She's targeting other elderly people. I felt sick. Naomi is using a fake name to target vulnerable people. Yes, and Francine, she's good at it. Professional, sympathetic. She positions herself as helping people prepare for the future. She's already convinced 3 elderly people I know of to give her power of attorney. I'm trying to help them, but the damage is done. We need to stop her. I've reported her to Adult Protective Services. But Francine, without criminal charges, there's only so much they can do. She's technically offering legitimate estate planning services. She's just doing it with predatory intent. That evening, I made a decision. I called Leonard. Naomi is targeting other elderly people under a fake name. She's convinced at least 3 people to give her power of attorney. We need to stop her before she destroys more lives. What do you want to do? I want to go public, tell my story publicly, name Naomi, warn people about her methods. Leonard, she's a predator. She'll keep targeting vulnerable people until someone exposes her. Going public means losing privacy. Your family conflict becomes news. Are you prepared for that? If it stops Naomi from destroying other families, yes. 2 months later, I was interviewed by a local journalist. Told my whole story, Wesley's forgery, the criminal case, Naomi's history, her new fake identity, her continued targeting of elderly people. The article published with the headline, Local Business Owner Exposes Sophisticated Elder Fraud Scheme. My FOD, Naomi's FOD, Wesley's plea deal, everything public. The response was immediate. 3 other elderly people came forward reporting similar approaches from Nicole Andrews. Adult Protective Services opened investigations. The state attorney general started looking into Naomi's activities. And Naomi disappeared, deleted her social media, closed her fake estate planning business, vanished. But I knew she wasn't gone, just hiding, waiting, planning her next move. 3 months after the article published, I received a letter. No return address, just a handwritten note. Francine, you won this battle by going public, by exposing me, by making it impossible for me to operate. But you're 78, I'm 45. I can wait decades if necessary. Eventually, you'll make a mistake, get sick, become vulnerable. And when that happens, I'll be watching. You thought I was finished. You were wrong. I was just getting ready. Then, I showed the letter to Leonard. She's threatening me. It's not specific enough to prosecute, but Francine, she's telling you she's not done, that she's waiting. Let her wait. I've protected everything. The trust is irrevocable. Carmen is trustee. Even if something happens to me, Naomi gets nothing. Unless she finds another way. Francine, predators like Naomi always find another way. That evening, I stood on my porch looking at the property I'd protected. The 60 acres, the farmhouse, the business still running successfully. They'd thought I was finished. Wesley and Naomi, they'd thought I was too old to fight, too confused to see their schemes, too weak to protect what I'd built. They'd been wrong about all of it. I wasn't finished. I was just getting ready. Ready to fight as long as necessary. Ready to protect what I'd built against whatever came next. Ready to expose predators who targeted vulnerable people. Wesley had learned his lesson through criminal prosecution. But Naomi, she'd learned to be more careful, more patient, more sophisticated. She thought time was on her side. Thought eventually I'd become vulnerable and she'd get her chance. Maybe she was right. Maybe eventually age would create vulnerability. But I'd prepared for that too. The trust, Carmen as trustee, every protection in place. Naomi could wait decades if she wanted. She'd find nothing but locked doors and legal barriers. They thought I was finished when they listed my property. I was just getting ready to destroy their scheme. They thought I was finished when the criminal case ended. I was just getting ready to go public and expose Naomi. They thought I was finished because I was 78. I was just getting ready to show them that age means experience, not weakness. And experience, that's the thing predators always underestimate. Until it destroys them. 2 years after Naomi's threatening letter, I was 80 years old when Carmen called with urgent news. Aunt Francine, you need to know something. Naomi's back, using a different name, and she's targeting someone we know. Who? Eleanor, your sister. Naomi approached her 3 weeks ago as Veronica Chase, a financial advisor specializing in retirement planning. Eleanor hired her, gave her access to financial records. Aunt Francine, Naomi is inside Eleanor's finances right now. I felt my stomach drop. My sister, the woman who'd believed Wesley's lies about me, who'd almost supported the property theft, who was now being targeted by the same predator. Does Eleanor know who Veronica Chase really is? No, I only found out because I saw them together at a restaurant, recognized Naomi even with different hair and makeup. Aunt Francine, Naomi is using Eleanor to get information about you, asking questions about your health, your business, your estate planning. Eleanor thinks she's just being friendly. She has no idea. I need to warn Eleanor. Will she believe you? Last time, she believed Wesley over you. What if she thinks you're being paranoid about her financial advisor? Carmen was right. Eleanor had poor judgment about these things. She'd believed Wesley's lies. She might believe Naomi's act. I called Eleanor anyway. Eleanor, we need to talk about your financial advisor, Veronica Chase. Francine, Veronica is wonderful. She's helped me organize everything. Veronica Chase is Naomi Ashford, Wesley's ex-wife, the woman who tried to steal my property. She changed her name. She's targeting you to get to me. Silence, then, Francine, that's absurd. Veronica doesn't look anything like Naomi, and why would Naomi target me? This sounds like paranoia. Eleanor, I'm sending you photos. Compare them to your financial advisor. Look at the facial features, the eyes, the bone structure. Hair and makeup can change, but faces don't. I sent Eleanor 3 photos of Naomi from before she changed her name. Waited. Eleanor called back an hour later, voice shaking. It's her. Oh God, Francine, it's really her. She's been in my house. She has access to all my financial information. What do I do? Fire her immediately. Change every password. Check every account for unauthorized changes. And Eleanor, tell me exactly what information you gave her, especially about me. Over the next hour, Eleanor detailed everything. She told Veronica about my bed and breakfast, about the trust I'd created, about Carmen being trustee, about my daily routines, about my health, everything. Naomi now knew every detail of my life, my protections, my vulnerabilities, everything she needed to plan her next move. That evening, I called an emergency meeting. Carmen, Leonard, Patricia the social worker, and Dr. Armstrong my physician. Everyone who'd helped me fight Naomi before. Naomi infiltrated Eleanor's life to gather intelligence about me. She knows about the trust. She knows Carmen is trustee. She knows my routines and my health status. She's preparing something. We need to figure out what before she executes it. Leonard spoke first. If Naomi knows about the trust and knows she can't access the property legally, what's her next move? Patricia answered. She'll look for the weak point, the vulnerability in your protection system. Francine, what's the one scenario where your protections fail? I thought about it. If something happened to Carmen, if the trustee was incapacitated or died, there'd be a gap, a window where the trust would need a new trustee appointed. How long would that window be? Court would need to appoint a successor trustee. Could take weeks. Maybe months, if there were disputes about who should serve. Leonard nodded slowly. That's the vulnerability. If something happened to Carmen during that window, someone could petition the court to become trustee. Could argue their family, they're qualified, they should manage your affairs. Could Naomi do that? Not as Naomi Ashford, Wesley's ex-wife, but as Veronica Chase, professional financial advisor, someone with no apparent connection to the previous theft attempts. She might have an argument. I looked at Carmen, at my goddaughter who'd trusted me with everything. Carmen, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to put you in danger. You didn't put me in danger. Naomi did. But Aunt Francine, we need to protect against this scenario. We need a backup trustee, someone named in the trust documents who'd automatically take over if something happened to me. Over the following week, Leonard amended the trust documents, added 2 successor trustees. First Carmen. Then if Carmen was unable to serve, Patricia the social worker. Then if Patricia was unable, a trust company with no family connections. Layers of protection, no gaps for Naomi to exploit. But I couldn't shake the feeling we were missing something. Naomi had spent weeks gathering information. She had a plan, and we didn't know what it was. 3 weeks after discovering Naomi's infiltration of a liener, Carmen called me late at night, voice terrified. Aunt Francine, someone tried to break into my house tonight. I scared them off, but they were trying to get in through my back door. The police came. Found evidence someone had been watching my house. Fresh footprints in my backyard. Cigarette butts near my fence. Someone's been surveilling me. It's Naomi. She's targeting you now. I think so. But Aunt Francine, if she's trying to hurt me, if she's trying to eliminate me as trustee, what do we do? You move. Tonight, stay with me at the farmhouse. We have security systems here. You're not safe alone. Carmen moved in that night, brought her essentials. We turned the farmhouse into a fortress. New security cameras, motion sensors, alarms on every door and window. And we waited. The attack came 2 weeks later, not physical, financial. Carmen discovered someone had filed fraudulent tax liens against her, claiming she owed $85,000 in back taxes. The liens attached to her bank accounts froze her assets. Aunt Francine, I don't owe any taxes. This is completely fabricated, but it's going to take months to unravel, and in the meantime, I can't access my money. Leonard investigated. The tax liens were filed using Carmen's social security number, but with false tax returns. Someone created fake documents showing unpaid taxes. Carmen, this is identity theft, and it's sophisticated. It's Naomi, I said. She's trying to make Carmen unreliable as a trustee. If Carmen has tax problems and frozen assets, Naomi could argue Carmen is financially irresponsible. Could petition to have Carmen removed as trustee. That's exactly what she's doing. And Francine, there's more. Someone filed a complaint with the State Bar Association against me, claiming I engaged in elder abuse by helping you create the trust, claiming I manipulated you into cutting out Wesley. They're attacking everyone who helped me. Over the following weeks, the pattern became clear. Naomi was systematically attacking everyone in my protection network. Carmen with fake tax liens, Leonard with fraudulent ethics complaints. Patricia received a complaint to her licensing board claiming she'd violated client confidentiality. She was trying to dismantle my defenses one person at a time. 1 month into the attacks, I received a letter from someone claiming to be a concerned citizen. Mrs. Ashford, I'm writing to inform you that your goddaughter Carmen has serious financial problems, tax liens, frozen accounts. This person is your trustee. You should reconsider whether she's capable of managing your affairs. The letter included copies of Carmen's fraudulent tax documents, proof of the frozen accounts, everything making Carmen look irresponsible. It was psychological warfare, trying to make me doubt Carmen, trying to make me question my protections. I called Carmen immediately. I received a letter trying to make me doubt you. It won't work. I know these tax liens are fake. I know you're being targeted. Carmen, I trust you completely. Thank you, but Aunt Francine, what if Naomi tries to petition the court? What if she presents all this evidence of my financial problems and argues I should be removed as trustee? Then we fight it. We show the tax liens are fraudulent. We prove this is a coordinated attack. Carmen, we have truth on our side. That matters. But I was scared because Naomi was winning. She was creating chaos, attacking my defenders, making everyone around me look incompetent or compromised. And through it all, Naomi stayed invisible, operating under fake names, filing false documents from untraceable locations, attacking from the shadows. 2 months into the coordinated attacks, Patricia made a discovery. Francine, I've been tracking the pattern of attacks, the fraudulent documents, the false complaints, and I found something. All of them originated from the same legal document service, a company called Premier Document Solutions. What is it? It's a business that helps people file legal documents. Incorporations, liens, complaints, all legitimate services. But Francine, guess who owns 30% of Premier Document Solutions? A shell company. And that shell company, it's owned by Naomi. Naomi owns the company that's filing fraudulent documents against my people. Yes, she created a business that gives her legitimate access to document filing systems. Then she uses it to file false documents. It's brilliant in a terrible way. She's hiding fraud inside a legitimate business. Can we prove it? We're trying, but Francine, the ownership is buried under multiple layers. Shell companies owning shell companies. It'll take months to trace definitively. We didn't have months. The attacks were escalating. 3 months into the siege, something happened that changed everything. A liener called, voice shaking. Francine, Naomi contacted me, as herself this time, not as Veronica Chase. She said she knows I exposed her, and she wants to make a deal. What kind of deal? She says if you transfer 30% ownership of the bed and breakfast to her, just 30%, you'd keep 70%, she'll stop all the attacks. The tax liens, the complaints, everything. She'll disappear. She just wants a piece of the business, a stake in what you built. And if I refuse? She says the attacks will continue. She'll destroy everyone around you. Carmen, Leonard, Patricia, she'll keep filing false documents until they're all fighting legal battles, until none of them can help you anymore. And then, when you're isolated and without support, she'll petition to become your conservator. She'll claim everyone who is helping you has been discredited, that you need a professional, someone like Veronica Chase, to manage your affairs. I sat with that information. Naomi's endgame was clear: destroy my support network, isolate me, then step in as my rescuer under a fake identity. It was sophisticated, patient, methodical. And it might work. What did you tell her? I asked a liener. That I'd pass along the message. Francine, what are you going to do? I thought about that question for a long time. About whether 30% ownership was worth ending the attacks. About whether I should negotiate with someone who'd spent years trying to steal from me. Finally, I answered. I'm going to finish this, one way or another. A liener, tell Naomi I want to meet, face to face, just the two of us. I'll hear her offer directly. Francine, is that safe? Probably not, but I'm 80 years old. I've been fighting Naomi for 3 years. I'm tired of shadows and attacks. If she wants to negotiate, let's negotiate. But I want to look her in the eye when we do it. The meeting was arranged for 1 week later. Neutral location. Coffee shop in town. Public enough to be safe. Private enough to talk. I arrived early, sat facing the door, waited. Naomi walked in looking different. Older, harder. The years of scheming had aged her. She sat across from me. Francine, you wanted to talk. You're attacking everyone who helps me, trying to isolate me, planning to petition for conservatorship once you've destroyed my support network. Naomi, that's your plan. I know it. You know it. Let's stop pretending. You're a smart woman, Francine. Smarter than I gave you credit for initially. Yes, that's my plan, and it's working. Carmen has tax liens. Leonard has ethics complaints. Patricia has licensing issues. I can keep this up for years. Eventually, they'll all be too busy defending themselves to help you, and you'll be alone. Or you could stop. Take the deal a liener mentioned, 30% ownership. Is that what you're offering? I'm asking what you really want. Is it money? Revenge. Proof that you're smarter than me. What drives someone to spend 3 years targeting an 80-year-old woman? Naomi was quiet for a moment. Then, you humiliated me. You were supposed to be easy. An elderly widow running a business beyond her capabilities. You were supposed to sign the power of attorney, hand over the property, and never realize what happened until it was too late. Instead, you fought back. You exposed me. You made me a target. Francine, you didn't just protect yourself. You destroyed my business model. I can't operate anymore because every elderly person I approach might know your story. You cost me everything. Good, you're a predator. You should be stopped. And yet here we are. You're 80, I'm 47. You're fighting battles on multiple fronts. I'm attacking from the shadows. Who do you think wins this war of attrition? The person with truth on their side. Truth, Naomi laughed. Francine, truth doesn't matter. What matters is documentation, legal filings, public records. I've created documentation showing Carmen is financially irresponsible, showing Leonard is unethical, showing Patricia violated rules. That documentation exists now. Those complaints are real. Even if they're eventually dismissed, the process takes years. And in those years, you get older, weaker, more vulnerable. So you're not here to negotiate. You're here to gloat. I'm here to offer you an out. Give me 30% ownership. I'll stop the attacks. I'll even help you run the business. We'll be partners. You'll have peace. Your people will have peace. Everyone wins. Except I'd be partnering with someone who tried to steal from me. Someone who spent 3 years destroying people I care about. Naomi, I'd rather lose everything than give you anything. Her face changed, from confident to cold. Then you'll lose everything, I promise you that. You might win some battles, Francine, but I'll win the war, because I have time, and you don't. She stood up, walked out. And I sat in that coffee shop, understanding something important. Naomi was right about one thing. Time was against me. I was 80, fighting battles on multiple fronts, defending people from coordinated attacks. Eventually, age would catch up. Eventually, something would give. Unless I changed the game entirely. That evening, I called Patricia, Carmen, and Leonard to the farmhouse. Naomi's plan is to outlast us, to keep attacking until we're all too busy defending ourselves to protect me. Then she'll step in as my conservator under her fake identity. We need to stop playing defense. We need to attack. How? Carmen asked. By exposing Premier Document Solutions, by proving Naomi owns it, by showing she's been using a legitimate business to file fraudulent documents. If we can prove that publicly, we destroy her base of operations. She can't keep attacking if her attack mechanism is exposed. Over the following month, we worked systematically. Leonard traced the shell companies. Patricia documented every false filing and traced them to Premier Document Solutions. Carmen hired a forensic accountant to prove the ownership chain. It was expensive, time-consuming, exhausting. But slowly, we built the case. Proof that Naomi owned Premier Document Solutions through shell companies. Proof that the company had filed dozens of fraudulent documents. Proof of systematic fraud. 3 months after the coffee shop meeting, we filed a lawsuit. Francine Ashford versus Premier Document Solutions and Naomi Ashford. Civil RICO charges. Fraud. Conspiracy. Requesting injunctions, damages, and criminal referral. The lawsuit was public, detailed, every fraudulent document listed, every victim named, the entire scheme exposed. Local media picked it up. Elderly business owner exposes sophisticated fraud operation. This time, the coverage was bigger. State news, then regional. The story of an 80-year-old woman who'd spent 3 years fighting a predator who wouldn't quit. And the story of a predator who'd created an entire business to facilitate fraud. 2 weeks after filing the lawsuit, federal investigators contacted us. Mrs. Ashford, we've been looking at Premier Document Solutions for 6 months. Multiple complaints from different states. Your lawsuit provided the ownership connection we needed. We're opening a federal investigation. 1 month later, federal agents raided Premier Document Solutions, seized records, arrested 3 employees, and arrested Naomi Ashford. Federal charges: wire fraud, identity theft, RICO conspiracy, elder abuse. 23 counts total, multiple victims across 4 states. If convicted, Naomi faced up to 40 years in federal prison. The trial was scheduled for 8 months later, and I knew I'd have to testify, face Naomi in court one final time, tell my story publicly. At 80 years old, I'd become the key witness in a federal fraud case. But I was ready. I'd been preparing for 3 years, since the moment Wesley and Naomi first tried to steal my property. They thought I was finished. I was just getting ready. Ready to fight as long as necessary. Ready to expose every scheme. Ready to testify in federal court if that's what it took. Naomi thought time was on her side, thought she could outlast me. She was wrong. Because I wasn't just fighting for me anymore. I was fighting for Carmen, Leonard, Patricia, Eleanor, and every other victim Naomi had targeted. I was fighting for the 23 people named in the federal indictment who'd been defrauded by Premier Document Solutions. I was fighting to prove that elderly people aren't easy targets. That age means experience, and experience is power predators underestimate. The federal trial was in 6 months, and I'd be ready. They thought I was finished when I turned 80. I was just getting ready to send Naomi to federal prison. That was the difference between being finished and being ready. And Naomi was about to learn that difference permanently. 8 months after Naomi's arrest, I was 81 years old when the federal trial began. I'd been preparing for months, reviewing documents, rehearsing testimony, making sure I could clearly explain 3 years of systematic fraud to a jury. The courtroom was packed, 23 victims, federal prosecutors, media, and Naomi sitting at the defense table looking smaller than I remembered. The lead prosecutor, Margaret Chen, approached me before I testified. "Mrs. Ashford, you're our key witness. Your story establishes the pattern, shows how Naomi operates, shows why what she did to the other victims wasn't random mistakes but systematic predation. Are you ready?" I've been ready for 3 years. When I took the stand, Margaret walked me through everything. The forged power of attorney, the property listing, the criminal case against Wesley, Naomi's history with the previous widower, the conservation easement attempt, the management company scheme, the infiltration of Eleanor, the attacks on Carmen, Leonard, and Patricia through Premier Document Solutions. 3 hours of testimony, every detail documented, every scheme exposed. Then Naomi's attorney cross-examined. "Mrs. Ashford, isn't it true you have a contentious relationship with your son Wesley, that you've held grudges against him?" "I have a relationship with a son who tried to steal from me. That's not a grudge, that's reality." "But you prosecuted him, got him convicted. Doesn't that show you're vindictive rather than forgiving?" "It shows I protect myself from thieves, even when those thieves are family." "Mrs. Ashford, you're 81 years old. Isn't it possible you've misunderstood some of these events? That what you see as conspiracy is really just unfortunate coincidences?" "No, forged documents aren't coincidences. Surveillance guests aren't coincidences. A fraudulent business filing false tax liens against everyone who helps me isn't coincidence. That's systematic predation. And I documented every single instance." "You seem very certain for someone your age." Margaret objected. "Your Honor, counsel is implying the witness is incompetent due to age. Mrs. Ashford has comprehensive medical documentation proving excellent cognitive function." The judge sustained the objection, and Naomi's attorney had no more questions. After my testimony, 12 other victims testified. Elderly people Naomi had targeted under various fake names, all following similar patterns: gaining trust, accessing finances, filing fraudulent documents, systematic theft disguised as help. One victim, an 84-year-old man named Robert Mills, broke down on the stand. "She told me I was confused, that I needed help managing my affairs. I believed her, gave her access to everything. She took $140,000 before my daughter discovered what was happening. I trusted her. She destroyed me." Another victim. A 79-year-old woman named Helen Pack testified about losing her home. Naomi convinced me to sign documents I didn't understand, said they would protect my house. Instead, they transferred ownership to a company she controlled. By the time I realized what happened, my house was sold. I'm living with my daughter now. I lost everything. Victim after victim, story after story. The pattern was undeniable. Naomi was a professional predator who'd spent years targeting elderly people systematically. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming: forged documents, fraudulent filings, stolen money, destroyed lives. The jury deliberated for 2 days, found Naomi guilty on all 23 counts. Sentencing was scheduled for 6 weeks later. In the waiting period, something unexpected happened. Wesley contacted me, first time since his divorce from Naomi. "Mom, I need to talk to you before Naomi's sentencing. There's something you should know, something she told me that you need to hear." We met at a neutral coffee shop. Wesley looked different, older, humbler, broken. "Mom, when Naomi and I were married, she told me things about her past, about why she does what she does. I didn't believe her then, thought she was exaggerating. But after the trial, after hearing all the victims, I understand she was telling the truth." "What did she tell you?" "That she was raised by her grandmother, a wealthy woman who promised Naomi she'd inherit everything. Naomi spent years caring for her grandmother, sacrificing her own life, expecting that when her grandmother died, she'd be rewarded. But when her grandmother died, the will left everything to charity, nothing to Naomi, decades of care, and she got nothing. That doesn't justify what she did." "I know, but Mom, Naomi told me that's when she decided elderly people with money were the enemy, that they hoard wealth while younger people struggle, that they promise things they don't deliver, that taking from them was justice. Mom, Naomi sees herself as a victim getting revenge. She genuinely believes what she does is justified. She's rationalizing theft as justice. That makes her more dangerous, not less culpable." "I agree, but Mom, I thought you should know, before sentencing, so you understand who you've been fighting, not just a con artist. Someone who believes elderly people deserve to be stolen from, who sees it as evening the scales." After Wesley left, I thought about what he'd said, about Naomi's twisted justification, about her seeing elderly people as the enemy. It explained the persistence, the patience, the willingness to spend years targeting one person. To Naomi, this wasn't just about money. It was about revenge against all elderly people who'd ever disappointed younger ones. I was her symbol, the elderly woman who'd outsmarted her, who'd refused to be victimized, who'd fought back and won. No wonder she'd spent 3 years trying to destroy me. At Naomi's sentencing, the judge allowed victim impact statements. 12 victims spoke, describing financial devastation, lost homes, destroyed trust, families torn apart. Then it was my turn. "Your Honor, Naomi Ashford spent 3 years trying to steal from me. When direct theft failed, she tried manipulation. When manipulation failed, she created an entire business to facilitate fraud against everyone who helped me. She targeted my goddaughter with fake tax liens, my attorney with false ethics complaints, my social worker with fraudulent licensing complaints. She infiltrated my sister's life under a fake identity to gather intelligence. She sent surveillance guests to document my property. She attempted at least 7 different schemes to access what I'd built. I'm 81 years old. Naomi thought that meant I was weak, finished, easy to defeat. She was wrong. Age doesn't mean weakness, it means experience. And experience taught me to document everything, to protect systematically, to fight strategically. But Your Honor, I'm one person, a person with resources and support. The other 22 victims weren't as fortunate. They trusted Naomi. They believed her lies. They lost everything. Robert Mills lost his life savings. Helen Pack lost her home. 12 others lost money they'd spent lifetimes building. Naomi didn't just steal money. She stole dignity, security, trust. She destroyed people's faith in humanity, made elderly people afraid to accept any help because they can't tell who's genuine and who's predatory. Your Honor, I'm asking for the maximum sentence. Not for revenge, for protection. As long as Naomi is free, elderly people are at risk. She's systematic, professional, patient. She'll wait years for an opportunity. She'll create elaborate schemes. She'll use legitimate businesses as cover for fraud. She told me time was on her side, that she could wait decades, that eventually I'd become vulnerable. Your Honor, she meant it. If you give her the chance, she'll do this again, to someone else. Someone who might not have the resources or support to fight back. I fought Naomi for 3 years because I had to, because she wouldn't stop, because every time I defeated one scheme, she created another. Your Honor, imprisonment isn't just punishment. It's protection for every elderly person she'd target if she were free. After I finished, the judge spoke directly to Naomi. Ms. Ashford, I've reviewed the evidence. I've heard the victims. I've seen the documentation of your systematic predation. You targeted vulnerable elderly people deliberately. You created elaborate schemes. You used legitimate businesses as cover for fraud. You showed no remorse. You viewed your victims as deserving of theft rather than respect. This court has seen many fraud cases, but the sophistication, persistence, and cruelty of your operation is extraordinary. You spent years destroying lives, creating elaborate mechanisms for theft, attacking anyone who tried to protect your victims. The prosecution has asked for 40 years. The defense has asked for 15. I'm sentencing you to 35 years in federal prison. Given your age, this is effectively a life sentence. You'll be eligible for release at age 82, assuming you survive incarceration. Ms. Ashford, you thought elderly people were weak, easy targets. You learned through Mrs. Ashford and these other victims that you were wrong. Elderly people can be strong, can fight back, can expose predators and send them to prison for life. I hope you spend the next 35 years reflecting on that lesson. Naomi showed no emotion as she was led away, just looked at me once. And in that look, I saw something I hadn't expected. Not hatred, respect. She'd spent 3 years trying to defeat me, and she'd lost completely. 35 years in prison, federal conviction, exposed publicly as a predator. I'd destroyed her more thoroughly than she'd ever imagined possible. After the sentencing, Carmen found me in the hallway. Aunt Francine, it's over, really over. Naomi is going to prison for the rest of her functional life. You won. We won. Carmen, I couldn't have fought her without you, without Leonard and Patricia and everyone who helped. This wasn't one person defeating a predator. This was a community protecting itself. 6 months after Naomi's sentencing, something beautiful happened. The 23 victims organized, created a support group, and decided to do something meaningful with their experience. Robert Mills called me. Mrs. Ashford, we've been meeting monthly, working through what happened, and we've decided to create something. A foundation to help elderly people recognize and resist financial exploitation. We'd like to name it after you. The Francine Ashford Protection Foundation. Robert, I'm honored, but I'm not the only victim. You're the victim who won, who fought back successfully, who exposed Naomi and sent her to prison. Mrs. Ashford, you showed us what's possible. You proved elderly people can defeat predators if they're strategic and determined. We want to honor that. We want to teach other elderly people what you taught us. The Francine Ashford Protection Foundation launched 1 year after Naomi's sentencing. Funded by contributions from the 23 victims, matched by several organizations that worked on elder abuse prevention. The foundation provided 3 services: education on recognizing financial exploitation, free legal consultation for elderly people facing family pressure, and support groups for victims recovering from financial abuse. In the first year, the foundation helped 340 elderly people. By the second year, it had expanded to 5 states and helped over 1,200 people. At 82, I'd become the namesake of a foundation protecting thousands of people from what I'd survived. 2 years after Naomi's sentencing, I received a letter, prison mail, from her. I almost threw it away. But I'd read every other letter from predators who'd learned lessons. This would be the last. Francine, I'm writing from federal prison. I've served 2 years of my 35-year sentence. I'll be here until I'm 82, if I live that long. I'm not writing to apologize. I'm not sorry for trying to take your property. I'm sorry I failed. That's the truth. I spent 3 years trying to defeat you and you destroyed me instead. You were supposed to be easy, an elderly widow running a business. You should have signed the forged power of attorney and never realized what happened. Instead, you fought back systematically. You documented everything. You protected everyone around you. You exposed my entire operation. I underestimated you. That was my mistake. I saw your age and assumed weakness. I saw your patience and assumed passivity. I saw your quiet refusal and assumed inability to fight back. I didn't understand that age means experience. That patience is strategic. That quiet refusal is power-gathering evidence. Francine, you taught me the most expensive lesson of my life. That elderly people aren't easy targets. That they can be stronger than predators. That experience defeats manipulation when victims refuse to be passive. I'll spend the next 33 years in prison learning that lesson over and over. Watching younger inmates disrespect me because of my age. Experiencing what my victims experienced, being underestimated and dismissed because I'm getting older. Maybe that's justice. Maybe that's karma. Maybe that's just the natural consequence of spending my life seeing elderly people as prey instead of people. You were right about everything. I was wrong about everything. And I'll die in prison because of that difference. Thank you for being stronger than my manipulation, for showing other elderly people what's possible, for sending me to prison so I can't hurt anyone else. You thought you were finished when I started targeting you. You were just getting ready to destroy my entire life. That difference, between being finished and being ready, that cost me everything. Naomi. I read the letter twice, then filed it with all the others. Documentation of a journey I hadn't wanted to take but had navigated successfully. 3 years after Naomi's sentencing, Wesley came to visit. First time in years. Mom, I need to tell you something. I'm selling my house, moving away, starting over somewhere new. And before I go, I wanted you to know you were right about everything. About Naomi. About protecting yourself. About not enabling me. Where are you going? Montana, buying a small ranch, going to work with my hands. Live simply. Mom, I spent years chasing easy money, believing Naomi's promises, thinking your property should fund my dreams. I destroyed everything for schemes that never worked. It's time to build something real, something honest. I'm glad you're starting over, Wesley. I hope you find peace. I will, but Mom, before I go, I need to ask, is there any chance we can rebuild? Not now, but someday. After I've proven I've changed. I thought about that question carefully. Wesley, you're my son. I'll always love you. But trust, relationship, those require years of changed behavior. Require you building an honest life and maintaining it consistently. You destroyed our relationship when you forged documents, when you tried to steal from me, when you chose Naomi over me. Rebuilding takes longer than destroying. How long? I don't know. 5 years? 10? However long it takes for me to trust that you've genuinely changed. Wesley, you can't rush this. You can only demonstrate through actions over time that you're different. I understand. Mom, I'll spend however long it takes proving I've changed. Not to get back in your will, just to have a relationship with you before you die. Because Mom, you're 84 now. We don't have unlimited time. Then use the time wisely. Build something real. Live honestly. Show me through years of consistency that you've changed. Wesley, that's the only path forward. He left for Montana 2 weeks later, and I didn't know if I'd ever see him again. 4 years after Naomi's sentencing, the bed and breakfast celebrated its 25th anniversary. 25 years of welcoming guests. 25 years of successful business. 25 years of proving I could manage what Wesley and Naomi said I was too old to run. At the anniversary celebration, Carmen gave a toast. To Aunt Francine, who was told at 76 that she was too old to manage her business, who fought off a 3-year campaign to steal everything she'd built, who exposed a federal fraud operation, who became the namesake of a foundation helping thousands of people, who proved that age means experience, not weakness, and who's still running this business at 84, still welcoming guests, still proving them all wrong. After the toast, Patricia pulled me aside. "Francine, can I ask you something? Looking back, do you regret any of it? Prosecuting Wesley, fighting Naomi for 3 years, the stress and battle?" "No, because the alternative was losing everything. If I'd signed the forged power of attorney, I'd have lost the business. If I'd accepted the conservation easement, I'd have lost value. If I'd stopped fighting, Naomi would have won. Patricia, I don't regret protecting what I built. I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret the fight itself." "What do you want people to remember about your story?" "That they thought I was finished when really I was just getting ready. That age doesn't mean weakness, it means experience. That elderly people can fight back successfully if they're strategic and determined. That predators underestimate us at their own risk. Patricia, I want people to remember that 76 isn't too old. 80 isn't too old. We're not finished until we say we're finished." 5 years after Naomi's sentencing, I was 86 years old when the foundation held its annual conference. Over 800 people attended. Elderly people learning to protect themselves. Adult children learning to recognize exploitation. Professionals learning to help victims. I was the keynote speaker, standing before hundreds of people, telling my story one more time. They told me I was too old to manage my business, too confused to understand financial decisions, too weak to fight back. They forged documents, listed my property, claimed I had memory issues. They thought I was finished. But I wasn't finished. I was just getting ready to get cognitive testing proving my competence, ready to document their fraud, ready to fight systematically for 3 years, ready to expose a federal fraud operation, ready to send a predator to prison for 35 years. I'm 86 now, still running the bed and breakfast they said I couldn't manage, still sharp, still fighting, still proving that age means experience, not weakness. When someone tells you you're too old, get documentation proving otherwise. When someone pressures you to sign documents, slow down and verify everything. When someone claims to be protecting you by taking your assets, protect yourself by documenting their actions. They thought I was finished. They learned I was just getting ready. That difference, between thinking someone is done and discovering they're preparing their countermove, that's everything. That's power. That's victory. Don't let anyone tell you you're finished. You decide when you're done, not them, you. After the speech, dozens of people approached me. Elderly people who'd fought back successfully. Adult children who'd protected their parents. Professionals who'd helped victims win. One woman, probably in her 70s, gripped my hand. "Mrs. Ashford, my son tried to take my rental properties last year, told me I was too old to manage them. I remembered your story, got cognitive testing, documented his fraud, prosecuted him. He's serving 4 years. Mrs. Ashford, you taught me I wasn't finished, that I could fight back. Thank you. You taught yourself. You did the work. I just showed you what was possible." That evening, Carmen and I sat on the farmhouse porch, looking at the 60 acres I'd protected, the business still thriving, the foundation helping thousands. "Aunt Francine, you're 86, still running the business, still advocating. When do you think you'll actually be finished?" "I don't know, when I can't climb the stairs anymore, when I can't remember guests' names, when the work becomes too hard instead of meaningful. Carmen, I'll know when I'm finished, but I'm not finished yet." "What about the property? When you do retire, what happens?" "The trust transfers everything to you. You'll decide whether to keep running the business or sell it. Either way, it'll be your choice. Not Wesley's, not Naomi's. Yours. Carmen, that's what all of this has been about. Making sure the people who tried to steal it never get it. Making sure someone who values what I built decides its future. I'll honor what you built, however long that takes. I know, that's why you're my trustee." 7 years after Naomi's sentencing, I was 88 years old when I received unexpected news. Wesley had been in Montana for 7 years, built a small ranch, lived honestly, paid his restitution in full, completed his probation. He called me, Mom, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you I've lived 7 years the right way, working honestly, building something real, staying away from schemes and shortcuts. I've changed, really changed. I'm glad, Wesley. Mom, I know we may never have a relationship again. I know the damage is permanent, but I needed you to know. You were right about everything. And I'm finally living the life you tried to teach me to live. It took prison and divorce and 7 years of hard work. But I'm finally the person I should have been all along. Wesley, I'm proud of you for changing, but you're right, the damage is permanent. You can build a good life in Montana. You can be honest and hardworking. But you can't undo trying to steal from me. You can't undo forging documents. You can't undo the 3 years of fighting. Wesley, I forgive you, but I can't rebuild with you. The trust is gone. I understand. Mom, I love you. I'm sorry. And I'll keep living right even though we'll never be close again. Because living right is its own reward, not because it earns me anything. Then you've learned the right lesson. Goodbye, Wesley. 8 years after Naomi's sentencing, I was 89 years old when something in my body changed. Not dramatically, just the slow awareness that I was reaching my limits. The stairs took longer. The guest interactions felt exhausting. The endless maintenance felt overwhelming. I called Carmen. I think I'm actually finished now, not because someone's telling me, because I'm ready. Carmen, it's time to close the bed and breakfast, to transfer everything to you, to rest. Are you sure? Yes, I've run this business for 30 years. I've fought off theft for 8. I've proved I wasn't too old. I've shown them all they were wrong. Carmen, I'm not surrendering, I'm retiring. There's a difference. Over the following months, we closed the business gracefully, honored existing reservations, notified regular guests, prepared the property for whatever came next. Carmen decided to convert it to a retreat center for the foundation, a place where elderly people could come for workshops on financial protection, where victims could heal, where the work I'd started could continue. It was perfect. The property I'd protected would keep protecting others. 9 years after Naomi's sentencing, I was 90 years old when I received a final letter. Prison mail, from Naomi again. Francine, I'm dying, cancer. The doctors say I have maybe 6 months. I'll die in prison at 56. I'll never see freedom again. I'm writing because I need you to know something. You won, completely, totally, forever. I spent my life seeing elderly people as prey, as weak, as easy targets. You proved I was wrong about all of it. You were stronger than me, smarter than me, more strategic than me. I targeted you at 76 thinking you were finished. You were just getting ready to destroy my entire life. That's the difference between us. I saw age and assumed weakness. You used age and experience to defeat me systematically. I'll die in prison. You'll die free, surrounded by people who love you, having protected what you built, having helped thousands of people, having proved that elderly people aren't victims, they're survivors who fight back. Thank you for teaching me that lesson, even though it cost me everything. Even though I'll die because of it. You were right, I was wrong, and that difference determined everything. Naomi. I read the letter once, then filed it away. Naomi died in prison 4 months later. Age 56. Federal inmate 77,390-4023. Remembered only as a predator who died because she underestimated an elderly woman. 2 months after Naomi's death, I was 91 years old when the foundation held a ceremony, dedicating the retreat center, naming it the Francine Ashford Center for Elder Financial Protection. I stood before 300 people, elderly victims, advocates, professionals, all gathered to honor the work that had come from my fight. I'm 91 years old. Naomi died in prison at 56. She thought she'd outlive me, thought time was on her side. She was wrong about that too. 15 years ago, they told me I was too old to run my business, too confused to understand documents, too weak to fight back. They thought I was finished. I wasn't finished. I was just getting ready. Ready to fight for 15 years, ready to expose fraud, ready to send a predator to prison, ready to create a foundation that's helped over 5,000 people, ready to prove that age is power, not weakness. They thought I was finished. I was preparing their destruction. That difference changed everything. After the ceremony, Carmen found me. "Aunt Francine, you did it. You protected the property. You defeated Naomi. You built something that will help people forever. You weren't finished. You were just getting ready, and you proved it for 15 years. I proved it for 91 years, Carmen. Every year I've lived, every challenge I've faced, every time someone underestimated me, I was never finished. I was always getting ready for whatever came next." At 91, I finally understood the difference between those two things. Being finished means accepting defeat. Being ready means preparing for victory. They thought I was one. I was always the other. And that difference, that saved everything. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.